So I got asked an interesting question the other day. What gun should I buy that falls into this parameter? In 100 years' time, my grandchildren, great-grandchildren will take this gun to Antiques Roadshow, and I would like them to say, your grandfather has taste. He was a little bit wider than that, and now I've said it out loud, it does sound a little bit more vain, but it's not. The whole point is that we would like a gun that exudes taste and has the longevity to get us to 2120. Welcome to a little video called the Antiques Roadshow gun. To buy a second-hand gun that fits both of these things would be easy for very, very reasonable money. Give me $2.5 grand, I'd probably go out and find something that ticks both of those boxes. However, there's a caveat that this gun's got to be new and a shotgun. So I've put some price brackets together, 5, 10, 15 and 20, and we'll probably vary around those. And well, 20 plus, I should say, because once you get past 20, this is a really easy game to play. Let's have a look and a dream. So there are 5 factors here. Well, there's 2 factors, as I've said, the taste and the longevity. This gun must exude that you had taste. Taste is a variable thing. However, in guns, the mainstream will certainly look at certain things and say that is not tasteful. And in different countries, you'll look at things that we would look at and go, that is not tasteful. So it has to be country specific and personally specific. However, there are some things that definitely just don't fall into this category. Longevity. It has to be built around an action that is good. There are some very pretty guns that you could probably get that fall well inside the taste category that will not last 100 years. So we have to be quite careful with what we're choosing. As part of this gun, there are 3 main components: the barrels, the stock, and the action. And you have to consider all 3 of these things whilst coming into this. So let's start with 5 grand, which is probably the hardest, but also the easiest because there's the least expectation on its back, because 5 grand is not a great deal of money in the gun world. Like if you look at what you can get for 5 grand versus what you could build to fall inside of this, well, that's that. So for 5k, what would I do? Well, I don't think there's any guns that actually sit at the 5k mark, and I'm sure someone will comment and change my mind on this, that fit these 5 segments. The longevity part, yes, you could probably get. The taste part you can get. But just going out and spending 5 grand on a gun doesn't technically exude taste. And to be honest, most of the 5 grand guns are certainly lacking little bits. So here's what I'd do. I'd go out and buy myself a Beretta Silver Pigeon or a 525 Browning if you want. The Silver Pigeon is easier because component parts are a bit cheaper. The 525, when we get further down the line, well, certain bits are, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. This could be a grade 1 or a grade 3. Buying a grade 3 action will get you a game scene in both of these guns. A nice game scene, more importantly. A new action as well. You could buy a used one, that would save you a load of money, but seeing as the caveat is new, although we'll break that as soon as we get to the 10k mark. Yeah, so let's say your Silver Pigeon 525 costs you £1,500 to £2,100. Change your stock for a grade 5 stock. The stock is important. To try and get a custom-made stock on a 5 grand gun is very doable, but at the expense of other things. So providing that a Beretta stock fits you sort of from the factory, or it can be manipulated to fit you adequately, go for it. This option probably wouldn't work for me. I'm quite tall, I'd end up with an extension on the back and have to do a lot to it. It would not be a beautiful thing by the time I was finished, technically. Given that my children's children are likely to be taller, it is not wise for me to go for this. I would probably do something different if it was me personally. I would probably invest more in a custom stock, and I wouldn't do this. But this isn't a gun for me, so that's not the point. That's not the game. You can buy a grade 5 custom, a Silver Pigeon classic stock for about 1,100 quid with a 4 end, maybe even less. The 525 is a similar amount of money. It might even be less than that actually. But you're gonna get yourself a grade 5 stock on your gun for that money. The 525 stock is vastly more expensive, so for that 1,100 quid, you might be looking at a second-hand grade 5 stock and then fitting it to your gun, having it refurbed. Checkering. Laser checkering doesn't fall into the taste category. Hand checkering does. Hand checkering is in itself an art form. And so I think taking 400 quid and having your checkering either chased out and rechanged, it's conservative 400 quid, depending on where you go, who you do and what you want done on it, but you could have your gun transformed. Every time I see a Beretta that has been re-checkered by hand, it is worth every penny that person made. It just looks so good versus the laser checkering. Is it any more practical? No. 525s come hand checkered. So you might save yourself some money there. However, chasing it out, manipulating the pattern to make it a little bit more special is nice. If there is not an oval fitted, get an oval fitted and engraved, because that is an important thing. That exudes taste and sort of, it's a mixture really, isn't it? Sticking your initials on a gun or your family crest, make one up if you don't have one, is a nice thing to do. The fact that you're planning for this to go 100 years through your family, why not invest in that? And that will be the start of it. And then after that, seeing as you've not spent a great deal of money, this is where you make it truly yours, because the Silver Viginal 525 isn't really yours. It's a very boring looking action. They're pretty, I'm sorry, but they are not exciting or personal in any way, shape or form. So I'd get myself a custom top lever, and I'd get myself a custom long trigger guard for either gun. The long trigger guard is tasteful, it's classy, and you can get them both hand engraved with something that's personal to you or your family, or just have them done really nicely so that when somebody looks at it in a year's time, you go, that's a beautiful touch. And it's about these things that we have actually seen various guns that probably fall well inside of this, and you look at it and you go, that was nice. And it's always these, let's say it's cost you £1,000 for a trusted custom trigger guard and top lever. You can get it inside that, you can spend more depending on what you want on it. It is a very worthwhile spend of money. You could have it for a lot less, by the way. But I want it to look pretty, so I'm going to spend £1,000 on it. You could probably get a custom trigger guard and top lever for about $5.50 if you weren't too fussy about what was on it. But if we're going to go down the rabbit hole, let's go down this rabbit hole. And then after that, if I had money left over, I'd put the gun in a really nice case. I'd get an old gun case and I'd get it refurbed to fit my lovely gun. So when you get it out, you go, that's a lovely touch too. And it's almost the lovely touch that you're looking for. Someone to look at it and go, oh, that's nice. That guy knew what he wanted. It wasn't about saving money. It was about producing a quality item of the best he could for the money he had. It's not being tight. It's not being stupid. You're not going, oh, I'm going to save money here and there. You are spending money unnecessarily on things that make the worlds of difference to this and zero to that and zero to shootability. But it's just about making something that was once boring pretty special. It's not crashing something to Halfords. It's like taking a car and crashing it into Halfords is a bad thing. It's like taking a car and going, I want this tasteful little thing done. I would like my door handles done in this slightly different colour, and my wing mirrors done a slightly different colour. Something that nobody will notice. When people look and you tell them, they go, yeah, that does look wicked. You spent a vast amount of money doing absolutely nothing that was totally worthwhile. And that's what I do. But it is not custom fit, and as such, that is a bad thing. But if you're a regular bloke, you'll be bang on. Buy a fixed choke. Now, on the barrel's note would be my choice. I'd buy a fixed choke because fixed chokes are always going to be classy. They shoot better, handle better, and are just classier through and through. So that's my 5K. What's yours? 10K. So it gets a little bit harder because you're bordering on the lines of some very high-end guns, but you're not quite there yet. And you're also at the very top end of your everyday gun. So what can you buy new for 10K without doing a damn thing? The factory will do everything for you. You can buy a custom Rizzini. You walked into a Rizzini dealer and said, I want £10,000. I would like a gun that fits this bracket. Rizzini could build that for you. They're a very good value brand. Is it going to be superbly custom? No. Is it very possible? Yeah, it really is very possible that you could walk in there and walk out with a nice round body side plate with custom-ish engraving, a grade 5 piece of wood that fits you. Not custom-ish engraving, not inside 10 grand, but a grade 5 piece of wood that fits you on a really good looking gun for 10K. Christ, if you want too fussy, you could get a pair. But that's not entirely the point. Yeah, a custom Rizzini is a good shout. A high-end B gun, meaning a Jubilee. I think you can get a B15 Beecham for 10K, but you could get a really nice Browning for 10K. And you breach it, you could get yourself a B15, which is a really nice gun, and people will look at it and do that. The Jubilee and the B15 are great. They're great when you want to come and sell them at the end, does buying a... yeah, they fit the bill. Yeah, they do fit the bill. Both of those guns fit the bill. And you could scrape yourself a Parazzi at 10k. Scrape. But that Parazzi would be pretty miserable. Someone whose opinion I do value reckoned a MX-16. That's a great shout. An MX-16 is an absolutely cracking idea. Very reasonably priced, good looking gun, with a low grade wood and a really good deal. Yeah, an MX-16 you could probably scrape inside of that. And all of these options people will look at and go, that was a nice gun. Yeah, he picked a nice gun. Well done. But there are better ways to spend £10,000. And as such, I'd sort of pull it into the custom market. At 10k, you can start building a gun that is very much yours. Action, stock, and barrels being personal to you. 10k is harder than 15, and 15 is harder than 20, and so on and so forth. So let's say this is somewhere between 10 and 15 grand. What would I do? Well, you could build yourself a custom B25 if you want to stick with Browning. You could build yourself a custom SO. When I say build yourself, you start with a plain one. You get an SO4 or a B25A1 and you go, I'm going to turn this into my gun. You're starting with a good solid action. And the action is really where the longevity comes in. Long-term availability of spares and knowledge and the fact that they don't really take a lot of work is kind of important. It's not if we were buying used, but if we're buying a new gun, that would seem to be something that would be intelligent. Shooting is going in the way of shooting heavier loads at higher stuff, and certainly when it comes to steel, we're not going to be shooting lighter loads anytime soon because the way steel works, it is a bigger thing. So you need an action that can take a bit of a pounding. Over and under, say Browning, Beretta, Parazzi, any of the guns you could think of that work and have been around for a while and will be around for a while, you can do. You could get yourself a 5.25 action, a Maruko action, you could get yourself a 6.86 action. All of these fall inside of this. But at 10k, you could probably do it to an SO or a B25. You can buy yourself, now, let's just play with the B25 theory. We all know you could buy other guns and work with them. But B25 is a very reasonable price. You could buy yourself a cracking A1 for 2 grand. You could buy a very nice A1 action with low work for about 1,200, 1,300 quid. My first thing that I would do is probably have new tubes sunk into the monoblock. Let's play this game, shall we? So start with a 1,500 quid action. New tubes will be somewhere around 2.5 grand, I would have thought. The reason you're going to do this is to update them, to bring them into a higher spec. The B25A1 is a nice gun with nice barrels, but let's now imagine you can put whatever you want on there, whatever mid-rib, whatever top rib. You could go ribless. You could have whatever you want, providing that it falls into this category. 36-inch, whatever you want. You can stick tubes in there that will take steel shot, not the old ones won't. You can stick some kind of chromish metal tubes in there so they won't rot like the original A1 tubes. Not that I've seen any rot because they were actually pretty good and most people actually looked after them. That's probably one of the things I'd do. If you could find a barrel spec you're happy with, that would be cool, but there aren't that many A1s with barrel specs that make you go, ooh, that will look good in 100 years' time. But they're built to sell for fashion, and that was the way that they were. So there you go. Stock, custom stock, grade 5. Custom stock grade 5 can cost you any amount of money. You can go and get it done very reasonably priced. You can go and get it done at a very top end. If you budgeted 3.5 grand, some would cost 3.5 grand. For 3.5 grand, you'll walk away with a custom fitted stock and forend strapped to your B25 action and very shiny new barrels. You've got a bit of money left over. That's fascinating, isn't it? So that's 7.5 grand. Every penny you have left, I would spend on engraving. It's good value. Let's say that was 2.5 grand. That's going to get you not a complete action's worth of beautiful Bellino engraving. But that will get you something small and personal on the side of your gun and have the metalwork finished to a really high standard around that beautiful piece of engraving. If you spent 7.5, 10, whatever you want on the engraving, you can always do it. You know, the budget sort of runs from here in the B25 sector. And to be honest, all the way up to about 20k, I'd fall within this sort of custom realms. But the more money if I spent more money, if I was moving up in that 15 to 20 mark, I'd do it to Perazzi, more than likely. For 20k, custom stock, custom tubes, full custom engraving, like something so personal to you. You could even have yourself an B25 side plated if you spent a bit more money and have that engraved. I think in that 15 to 20 mark, you could go and buy yourself a baby SO or a baby B25. The sort of, you're going to get a lot of this option with it, but actually you'll probably get less option than this. I mean, at 10 grand, 20 grand, you'd knock them out of the water. Having it done yourself kind of bypasses, not the maker's profit, because it's the wrong way of looking at it, but paying for the name of something new. And to be honest, if you're looking at the taste and longevity, those things should not matter. You're not looking at residual value, you're looking at residual quality. And residual quality is a very different thing. Not having the manufacturer do something can sometimes be really good. Yeah, I think, for that 20 grand price point, you could probably scrape a side-plated Perazzi Action with probably factory barrels at 20k and a engraving on it that would be very personal to you and a custom stock that would be beautiful and perfect for you. I know it's not that exciting to say, but that's exactly the route I would go. 20k plus is a lot more exciting, mostly because plus is infinite. What would you do? I have vague ideas what I'd do. So for 20 grand plus, you could walk into most makers across the world. Merkel, Krieghoff, Perazzi, Browning, Beretta, Rizzini, Guarini, Kolar. And walk out with something you'd be really, really happy with that would probably fit both of these, because 20 grand is a huge amount of money. You're not having to be quite so shrewd with your money at 20 grand plus. However, what would I do with it? Mackay Browns? You could have yourself a nice Mackay Brown for for somewhere between 20 and 100,000 pounds. You could, there's a litany of Italian gun makers whose guns that would fall in that sort of 20 to 50 mark that would make you cry every time you look at them. They're so bloody beautiful. If you're into your German guns, Blaser and Krieghoff, you could do something similar. I don't know. I'm never going to be in that position. I'm not going to be in that position for many, many years, unless if I'm really, really lucky. I might get to the point of spending more than £20,000 on a shotgun. And even then, the chance that I probably wouldn't buy a new one. I'd probably buy something really nice from a maker, take it back to the maker and get them to make it for me. There's so much value to be had at that money, and to be fair, if I'm ever thinking about spending £20,000 on a gun, short of winning the lottery, it's going to have to be an investment because, that's a huge amount of money. I feel like 10k is a reasonable amount of money to spend on a gun. This is where people go, I don't have 10k to spend on a gun. But I can see sort of 10 to 20,000 pounds, you can get everything you need out of a gun in terms of customization and personalization. Over that, you are buying a luxury good. You're buying a service, you're supporting an artisan. It's a very different kettle of fish over 20k. Or you want something in this sort of custom-y line that just is extra, super extra. Anyway, I don't know. I'm struggling over the 20k because there is 1,000 million options. You're not... It's going to sound stupid. So, growing up, my mother used to take us on holiday. And she used to do it all on these really tight budgets. And part of the fun of that, I remember as a kid, was making a small amount of money go as far as humanly possible. She even wrote a book on it. And actually, I think that's part of the fun, is building something inside the most you can for the best money that you can. And I think that's why actually over that 20 grand price point, it becomes less exciting because you can just go, yeah, I love that, I love that, I love that, I love that. It's a bit like going house shopping. If you had 200 grand in the south of England, you're gonna have to be really, really picky. If you walk around with 5 million in your pocket, yeah, you can be a bit picky, but you can dip down to 3 mil and still have something you're probably quite happy with. Or just buy all of, you know, Lithuania. No offense. There you go. Guys, I'd love to know what you'd do for 5, 10, 15 and 20 grand. And I do think there's really less pleasure in spending over 20 unless you're spending up near 100. It's difficult, isn't it? Because, you know, 100 grand, you're at Bosses, Fabries, literally anything you could ever want in the entire world. But most of us aren't going to be in that position, right? And most of us who were spending 20 grand would buy something second hand as a usable investment. Because for 20 grand second hand, you can almost touch those 100 grand guns that were new at 100 grand. Almost. Almost. They'll be a bit old, a bit doggy, but it's as close as I'll ever come. Guys, thanks for watching. There you go. And if you've got any questions or need any help building these million, billion pound guns, I'd just love to know your build ideas. This is the stuff that excites me. Guys, take care. I'll see you later.